From the historic hand building in St. Paul, it's the Haberdasher's Couch. I'm Kendrick, inviting you to the show, starring Heimie and Dorset, featuring Todd Walker, also featuring Amye Scharlau. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Heimie.
Hello, this is Amye the Hypnotist for Heimie's Haberdashery, and today I am in beautiful Denver, Colorado at the Museum of Art. Today we're going to talk about how entertainers keep it fresh. A lot of us do the same show hundreds of times a year. So how do we keep it relevant? How do we keep it so that it is important? For me, the thing to remember is for the audience members, they've come a long way to see me and to realize for them, it's actually not about me, it's about them, and they've never seen it before. And I've talked to a lot of other entertainers, and they do the same thing. So the trick is to get out of your own head. It's not routine, it is fresh, it is new. You can also do things like have your own goals for that particular show. And this is more than just entertainment. This can handle anything in your everyday life. So for you, okay, it may be the same thing over and over, but for the people around you, it's new, it's fresh. Try to see things through their eyes, and I will see you again next week.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to another show of the Haberdasher's Couch, where you don't have to pay somebody to listen to you. We've got a bunch of young aviators who took to flight, and we're going to talk to them today and ask them the question of why fly? Jeff, why fly?
Why fly?
Why fly?
Man, that's a great question, Anthony.
Say aye.
That's a great question. You know, for me, it was, from a very young age, I kind of caught the bug. There's this aviation bug out there. And when I was really young, I remember, actually, I'm wondering too, I've heard Paul say before that, he grew up near an airport. And it dawned on me that I grew up under an airport too.
Oh, wow.
Over,
Yeah.
under the kind of the pattern
Sure.
near the South St. Paul Airport.
They call it circuit. Is that circuit?
The circuit, the pattern.
The pattern.
Typically like that. And I remember having a dream as a young kid, where I, run across the neighbor's yard, and I even took to flight myself for a few feet. But I've always wanted to from a young age, and for me right now, it's just finally got to a point in life where maybe it's a midlife crisis. I don't know, but I finally said, you know what? Let's do it.
Exactly.
Let's do it.
Because you got to set aside some time. This is not an easy task. How about you, Paul? Why fly?
Same thing. Caught the bug at a very early age. Didn't have the good eyesight that I needed to do it when I was a young man in the military. Then I had a family, and so now my kids are out the house. I got time to finally engage my dream. And the real answer is to why fly is when you can, and you learn that you can leave the face of the earth and go back at will, and you can do it, and you know how, and you're safe. There's no feeling like that anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and so we got flying for pleasure, flying for travel, and flying for business. What do you plan on doing with this this newfound love of flight?
All pleasure for me.
Pleasure, Jeff.
For me, it's all pleasure.
All pleasure, and pleasure can cost money in food and booze, in hobbies. This seems. I don't want to call this a hobby because it's more of a lifestyle. Because I hear you guys talk. You're getting into this vernacular now. You're a couple of flyboys, right?
Yes,
it happens.
Talking and So tell me about expense. What's it going to cost me to get my private pilot's license?
I would say it's going to depend on which flight school you go to, which airplanes you fly, which instructors you fly with, but a bargain basement, I think, is 8,000-9,000, and anywhere up to 16,000, 17,000.
Kind of pay as you go.
You pay as you go.
Yeah,
and
that makes it easier.
Yeah. And the more aptitude you have, the faster your instructors will say they're comfortable with you progressing.
Right. So we're talking 40 hours minimum, but usually people go to 60, 70 hours.
That's the average these days.
That's the average, because I understand that flight instructor knows sort of when you're ready. right? Because you have your
Yes.
your ground school, right? Then what is it? What takes place after your ground school?
You got to do solo time.
So your 10 hours of solo, and then what? Tell me a little bit more about the process.
You talk.
I'll talk. All right. Well, you kind of start off, you do ground school. A lot of ground schools nowadays are done online. There's a lot of great programs out there that people use. Sometimes a flight school will recommend one or another. Like Paul said, you go through, you pick out which plane you're going to go with, you find your instructor. But yeah, you're going to start out doing, dual training with your instructor for a number of hours. And then eventually you're going to hit a point where they know you're ready. You're going to solo, so you're going to take a couple trips up in the pattern, just near the airport by yourself. And that's kind of the first big milestone for most pilots.
Okay.
And then after that, you slowly, work your way into doing some cross-country training,
Great.
solo cross-countries, and beyond.
Written at ground school, then written exam. Excuse me, 70% to pass. I would want that to be kind of in the 80th percentile. Not, it seems like the requirements are pretty average.
Well, that's just the written test.
Okay.
And they do a very good job at that test to make sure you don't get 100%.
So there is a feel. There is a feel at the wheel, right? There's a feel
sure.
in flight.
Yes.
Right? It's not all brains. Some of it is sense.
Some of it your body has to feel the flying. And for those of you who get airsick, I heard a former military pilot say probably the most intuitive thing I'd ever heard, but I'd never heard it before. And he said, if you're in a car or a plane or on a boat and your hands and your eyes don't see the same thing that your butt in the seat sees, you're going to get airsick. And so that feel, that you literally seat of the pants feel of all the three-dimensional movement, if your eyes and your hands and your body don't all work together, that feel that it takes to be a pilot is going to be tough.
So take a look up here. What is this picture that you sent me the other day, Paul? What kind of plane is that? That's a World War II. What is that plane?
The T6. It was a World War II trainer.
T6, and you were in the back.
Yes.
Yeah, and does it actually have a
joystick?
You call it joystick?
Yes. That aircraft was set up so that originally the student would sit in front.
Yeah.
The instructor would sit in back.
Ah.
And so there are flight controls in the back.
Okay.
Yeah. But now it's set up so that the pilot who knows what they're doing is in the front, and the pilot who's just going to fly a little bit sits in the back.
So let me just go over a few things, and we'll get past all this requirement stuff, because we just want to get in the air and fly. We don't want to talk about all these requirements. 5 hours solo cross country, 20 hours of flight training, 3 hours instrumental, 3 hours of night flying, 3 hours of training and preparation to FAA private pilot practical test. It goes on and on. So if you don't got what it takes to stick with the plan, stay out of the air is what I say. But now let's get to the essence. Let's get what it means to have a hobby, the emotional aspect of flying. How do you prepare? Wake up in the morning, say, I'm going flying today. Jeff, how do you prepare? Do you pack a lunch? You say goodbye to your loved ones?
You do say bye to your loved ones. Yeah. And you also say, I'll be back in a little bit. Right. For me, my son might be waiting at home, so I say, if you don't hear from me by then, call me.
Right.
Yeah. But no, I mean, you just go out. I mean, you need to, mentally prep yourself before you go into the flight. I mean, you kind of get yourself in the zone. So you kind of walking through your pre-flight. You don't want to miss anything on that.
Right.
So just take your time, get through that. Once you hop in the plane, when you're ready to go, take your time, use your checklists, and just kind of stay in that mindset of just being on track.
Put your headset on, and you start the propel, the motor. You want to call it
the engine.
The engine. You call it the engine. And so, and you say to yourself, why am I doing this? Just for a second, you just say that. Paul, what's your prep time like?
No, you never. No.
You never say that.
You never say. No, you've already made that decision.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That decision's long gone. I think Jeff's right. You have to get yourself in the mindset. There's a phrase that pilots use called "staying ahead of the airplane." So it's kind of the old like if you're a good chess player, you're 3 moves ahead.
Right.
Because things can start to happen quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're not ahead of the airplane, you're now reacting, and that's bad.
What are the most common accidents in small aircraft? Is it pilot error?
It's pilot error, and
yeah,
it's pilots who are not rated to fly in instruments alone, who fly into clouds and other fog, things like that. That is by far the biggest error.
Yeah. Okay. So back during the phases of when we had airplanes for battle, right? First World War. Actually, do we have them just a little bit prior to the First World War, right? We had balloons, air balloons.
Right.
And then wasn't there the biplanes? When were the biplanes?
Yeah. World War One.
World War One would have been biplanes, and then your single fixed wing would have been. When did that come into origin?
30s.
Ooh, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean there are still
sure on that one.
There are still, if you were a pilot getting ready to fly in early World War II, you might have trained in a biplane.
Right.
And in fact, the British still flew some of their seaplanes in World War II were biplanes.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So
Okay.
but single wing, 1930s.
Okay. And so again, it has to be in your blood. It has to be a passion. It seems like it's sort of part of a lifestyle. How do your spouses and or other family members, do they want to fly with you, or is it like this is your thing, you go?
For me, the people I've talked to around me, family and things like that,
Yeah.
they're excited about it.
Yeah.
And they want to go.
Okay.
There might be a person here or there that is like, nah, I'm okay.
Right.
Or maybe,
Right.
wait till you have more hours under your belt, then I'll go or something like that. But most of them, they're excited.
Okay.
I
How about you,
asked
Paul?
my son, and he's like,
Yeah. Your son goes up with you.
not yet.
Oh, not yet.
Although he has been when the instructor was with me.
Yeah.
Because then it's still legal to do so.
Right.
But he's excited about it.
Your wife?
My wife is hesitant, but she doesn't like to fly much anyway.
Yeah.
In a regular airplane, if she's in the back during a landing cycle and there's a crosswind and the back of the plane's going like this, she's really not happy.
Okay.
So when I describe flying in a 2,000-pound airplane getting bounced around all the time,
Right.
that's a no.
Right. And so do you ever plan on buying a plane? Either
No.
one of you? No. How much do they cost to rent?
Also depends on the plane, but anywhere from 125 to, for a
really
small
depends.
single-engine plane, 125 to 175.
Yeah.
If you're talking, you're fancy and you can fly multi-engine, $300 an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gas isn't cheap.
No. I have a boat, right? And part of the pre-flight for my boat, it is a series of checks and balance checklists and fuel on board and getting myself prepared to be out on the water with life jackets and food. It's kind of the same thing. I understand that thought process, which I think that's what intrigues me as a thought process. I sort of like the fact that machines that we create become extensions of ourselves, right? The things we ride in. Because human beings spend a lot of time riding in things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seems like that's all we do. It's either a bike or a car or a motorcycle or a boat or a plane.
Yes.
We're moving around all the time.
And all of which give us more freedom.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I enjoyed learning a little bit about aviation, and I hope you come back on the show. And will you share your solo experiences next time you guys come back?
He
You already
can now.
soloed?
He's
I soloed.
Oh, you did solo.
He's soloed.
Okay, and you're yet to solo.
I am yet to solo. I'm still
Okay.
waiting for the FAA to say that I'm not a menace to society.
Until that day, thanks for joining us on the Haberdasher's Couch. We really appreciate it. Have a great weekend.